Hey guys, this is Josh. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've had the pleasure of meeting out on his farm where he has an assortment of old vehicles. He was very happy to show me around, so I'm going to put a couple of shots together, a bit of the conversation that we had, and hopefully you enjoy it.
This is a 1934-35 London cab. And if you realize this vehicle worked in London during the Second World War as an ambulance and fire engines. There's its original number at the back. And then the story went they drove 3 of them down through Africa, of which this is one's in Cape Town and the other one is in Durban apparently, which I haven't seen. So there are 3 of them in the country. That's the story that the bloke was with my dad's cousin, and I saw him at a funeral a couple of years back. And he said, no, he's got a thing because the Rangali Mail sponsored the trip and he was going to send me documentation of it, but I've never received that. Wow. Which I must actually follow up on because it's actually there's a photo or two in that that's actually quite nice. A lot of work, a lot of woodwork, and the woodwork is a big problem on them. It's very time consuming. And you've got to want it. If you want it, you know, and I enjoy, like, I don't like guys doing it for me, and that's what often takes a lot of time. So if I've got time, nothing nicer than a Saturday morning, and even if I just make one piece of wood, and that to me is satisfying, you know. And I do it as best as I can do it, and then you learn from that as well, which I enjoy doing. And there are obviously certain limitations of certain things. Money is one, or maybe more so time and resources to then acquire certain things and so on. But again, if the will is there, you can do it. There's no doubt. Well, I've learned that. When I put that 39 Chev, I put it together when I was in matric, and I mean, I still got it, but I mean, if I didn't done that, I wouldn't have had it today. Also an interesting bike. It's a 1927-28, what they call a BSA Jap Special. So it's a BSA frame with a Jap motor, which was, Jap used to build engines for various applications, stationary engines. The last of them was for speedway motorbikes. And this bike was built by, I believe he was a Hollander, if I remember correctly, because he used to go to what they call the DJ. The DJ is a well-known rally in South Africa. Okay. I think it's from Wolvaardt up to, I think it's 1936. And he used to walk around in his clogs at the DJ, and he was quite well known. And it's done 1995 DJ, which are the stickers on. And I've left it like that because I thought it was part of its history. It did the 95 DJ, and then it did the 2011 DJ as well. That was the last one it did. And then I bought it from somehow a friend of mine, Edwin, landed up with the bike. And then we went on our trip. I had a Harley and this, and I went on this from PE to Jeffries, and the motor backed up with me. So I'm busy doing the engine. It's a Jap 350 is the motor. It runs quite well for an old bike, funny enough. It's quite fast for such an early bike. So, and that was 2 years ago, and I haven't worked on it. And then I was working on a friend's bike, and I decided I want to get my bike to go. So I've actually I only stripped it now, because something you don't want to do. You strip a thing over a weekend and you never get it back together. And that's why you've got to be careful with that. So, because otherwise, and how many projects? This is one.
Yes.
Stripped over a weekend and it's never been put together again. And that was probably 30, 40 years ago. There's a Model A Ford, 1931. Just before they built these. And to me it's also interesting if you look at the advancement in engineering. And this was a cheap car. I mean, it wasn't an expensively built car. But it's interesting how they jumped or they leaped from. But this was also a bit behind its time. I mean, they came out in 27. It mechanically basically the same, and they changed a couple of things on them. That's just after the Model T. Late 27, 28 Model A's came out, and then they changed the bodies, and the mechanics were very basically the same. But so by 1931, they were sort of lagging mechanically. But then they came out in 32 with a car that was like this, with a V8 motor, mechanical brakes, but it was a completely different car, mechanically. That's a 34. So 4 years later, they had this. So again, but then they were gearing up for the war, which is also an interesting dynamic to me.
Yes.
Where 38, 39, I think 41, end of 41, 42, we got very few 42 cars.
Yeah.
And then they stopped production as such. And then you got 40, which I've got a 44 at the bottom there, which is, sorry, not 40, and then you got 45, 46, 47, 48 Fords. They're very similar to them, but then they advance sort of 40, which is now 48 up to 50. Then they change to like that Dodge there. Shapes change quite a lot. That's a 41 Chrysler, and that is a, I forget its model of the white Dodge. Dodge Chrysler Plymouth DeSoto, the same firm. But in between the wall. Here's a classic example that now I think about it. This was also a very original car, also belonged to an old bloke, and he crashed it. He had Alzheimer's, and he went into the garage door, and then he crashed into a pole. Okay. And then the old man Charles van Sale bought it, and then a friend of mine bought it from him, and I then swapped Michael for the car. But he did a quick job. So within, say, 2 years, you had this. Now this you've got to take down to metal.
Yes.
Now on your restoring programs, they'll give it a quick sand spray. It'll look beautiful for 6 months. And now they think again, oh wow, what a wonderful job. These looks are amazing. But you've got to do it right at the end of the day. Yeah. And you always get trouble coming out of the vehicles. So yeah, also it's a bit media. It's TV. It's mirrors and light.
I love the horn.
Yes, they came out with that.
You see all the horns these days are like this big.
It's tiny, yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a 41 Chrysler with a fluid drive, which is also interesting. That's why I did the deal with this. It's got what they call a fluid drive.
It's a 6-cylinder engine.
Torque converter, so you can come to the stop speed, you stop, and it stops without pushing the clutch in. Because now it runs on the torque converter, which is the same as what an automatic gearbox has, basically.
Okay.
But it's got a manual gearbox that the torque converter runs. So you can stand there, and then you put the light goes green, and you put your foot down, and it then, in top gear, pulls away. Because the torque converter takes up the slack. But it's very heavy on fuel then. But it's quite lucky when you get used to it. What a pleasure. It's like driving an automatic, but it's manual. It's actually quite nice. But it didn't take off. They only did it till about, I don't know what year. I think they did do a couple after the war. But then it was scrapped in what they called fluid drive.
I love the memorabilia.
That was also something that I started collecting. Funny, I got one of the lamps. A friend of mine died and he had a lamp, and I started with lamps. And then pressure paraffin lamps. And I don't even know how many I got. But I don't buy anymore, unless I get a real, like a bargain. And then I started with glow lamps. So I took a lot of those as well. But for the signs, I'm not a big sign collector. Signs, a lot of people that collect signs now. Enamel signs is big. Marilyn Monroe, they kicked her out of a bar. They said, you want the picture? So I said, bring it, and I put it up there. So it was a joke. She was kicked out of the camera's bar.
Oh, that's something else.
It's my hobby. And it's not, I mean, people ask me why I don't do weddings, because then it's become work.
That's
right. Stupid, but
it is true.
I do the odd wedding every now and then, but I don't want it to be work. I've got to get the cars out, I've got to go into Model A. You know what I mean? Then it's work. And this is, to me, my hobby. And I want to keep it like that, quite honestly. For now, anyway. I don't want to make it my work. My brother works for a bloke in Johannesburg who's got also 200 odd cars, beautifully done. He's got very nice cars. And I said to Andrew, how's it going? I don't go to show anymore, you know, this and that. I said, well, actually, you're losing your passion because you're doing with it every day. So you've got to keep it at that. I think it's important. Yeah. In a way.
You know, the nice thing about keeping it as a hobby is that if you get tired of it, you can put it aside. In
fact, I've said it so many times, if I get peed off with this car, I say, man, fuck it, and I leave it for 3 months, and I come back and I'm all motivated. Yeah. And I joke about knocking sport with all its politics. I don't watch sport anymore, but you've got nothing other than maybe joy if your team wins and a hangover the next day, or whatever it costs you. With a hobby like this, I've got something for my time and my money.
That's true.
As much as you want to criticize it, anybody wants to, and that's a fact. So that's why I'm a little bit like, yeah, at least I've got something for my time and my effort. And then it's stimulating. I mean, they're reading up history of certain items and things, and you know, that's also, to me, it's enjoyable.
It's absolutely.
Where sport, and then politics has got involved the last how many years, and good luck, guys. That's my attitude with that. So that, but I feel this hobby, at least you've got something for your time and your money.
And it's something you can share over and over again.
You can actually, yes.
It's not a single moment item, or it's something that you're always going to have.
Yeah.
And if push comes to shove, and there's a financial need, then
you generally
you're sitting on a cushion.
Use too much of it. Yeah, you do. It's true. And then you got your friends and the camaraderie and the people that you do things with, and there is that. We go on trips. We go to Johannesburg. normally twice a year. And we're a group of guys that have been doing it for almost 20 years. And there was a time where I got like, I'm not going there, I'm done with it. And then I realized, but you know, we've actually got something that only people dream about. We've got this group of friends that have been in a combi, not on a hunting trip and not on a get pissed down trip, going to strip shows or any of that type of crap. We go and we know people there from Durban, Joburg, Cape Town, and we meet every weekend for a night. We have a braai there, we have a swap meet the next day, and then we all go our separate ways. We have a bit of contact between each other, and that's what this hobby makes special. Well, that is special, if you know what I mean. I feel so. It's something money can't buy that. You can come with all fanciness, but at the end of the day, that experience of, one year I didn't go, and then one friend with the bike, where are you? What's happening? You know? Hey man, I didn't feel like coming. And then I realized it's actually something you must keep doing it, you know. Take your kids and do your thing.
That massive machine on the back there?
That's a Ruston. It's a 1927 Ruston Hornsby. Petrol start diesel, runs on diesel. It came from, I bought it in Port Elizabeth, but it came from Tarkistan apparently. It was ran there, pumped water on a big farm there. It was run once before. I had it at the show and then it wouldn't start. And I must fine tune it a bit more, and then I want to paint it nicely. I did a lot of work on it though. There was a lot of issues with the gear and stuff like that, which I did. This is from its numbers, 1936 John Deere Model D. It's a 2-cylinder. And the D was they built, I'm speaking a correction, but I think a D was built, it's the longest, a range of tractor which was built for the longest time ever, a Model D. Although they did change, but they still were called Ds. And you've got a unstyled D, and this is an unstyled D. Very big following overseas, John Deere 2 cylinders.
For 2 cylinders, it is very large.
They were built like that. Yeah. But I've done a lot of work, but I've got a problem with the Mayag. So I've sort of stalled with the work on it because of the magneto. And then they stole the clutch, which is so I'm going to have to import it. Project's in waiting, my John Deere 720. There's my truck. I've got a 1955 Mercedes truck just been restored. We used it in a film 2 years ago.
Thank you for joining our little tour today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, hit the like button and hit subscribe if you want to see more of our videos. Thank you for watching. You've been epic. Stay safe and stay strong.